Hi boys and girls, this is going to be part 2 of the tractor parts video. Okay, I want to go over the operator station. Now, like I said at the very end of my last video, for the most part tractors are relatively similar. They're not all exactly the same, but you need to take what I teach you here and apply it to other tractors. Okay, so that being said, you're going to operate this tractor, and there's 3 other tractors at the land lab. So what you learn on one, you can transfer to other ones. So I'm going to go through some of the stuff here on the ground just because it's a little easier. So here's what it looks like. There's your ROPS, there's your canopy. You got your lights up on there. Here's your seat. Seat has a seat belt. It's on that side over there. So again, you should have your seat belt on. On the left side, so using your left hand, there's 4 things that I want to note on this tractor. Okay, so the first thing is your range lever. The range lever is in the back. Now on our 5300, these levers are on the right side, but they do the same job. They're just in a different spot. Again, that's that, you know, every tractor is a little bit different piece. So you can see this tractor, we have 3 different ranges. We have A, B, and C. Now these are speed ranges, okay? This tractor has 3, some have 2, some have 4, some have 5. It all depends. So a range is a grouping of gears, I guess you could say. So we have A. A is going to be the slowest range, okay? So A might be 0 miles an hour up to 4 miles an hour. And then each range is divided into 4 gears on this particular tractor. Okay? Then we have neutral. Then we have B range. B range is the second fastest of the ranges. So that might be, you know, 5 miles an hour to 10 miles an hour. And then we have C range, which could, you know, be from 9 to, you know, 18 miles an hour. So here's a chart where we can see the ranges. You can see in the bottom left there's A, 1, 2, 3, and then, you know, that's 1 to 2.3 miles an hour, and then B is the second fastest range, and then C is the fastest range on this particular tractor. Okay, so ranges are groupings of gears. Okay, and this is your lever in the back. Now we have a lever here in the front of that one, still on the left side. This has a 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so each range is divided into 4 speeds. So you have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Okay, now that gives you 12 different speed combinations. Okay, so when you're on the road, you're definitely going to be in C range. All right, when you're pulling into the garage down here, you're going to be in A range, you know, but maybe on the fields, you know, you're using B range. Okay, so don't be afraid to use the speeds you have. Okay, you know, some kids, a lot of the time, they're, you know, for pulling up here, they're in A range from the parking lot all the way inside. You know, don't be afraid to change gears here. You have 4 speeds, you have 3 ranges. You know, maybe that's a B range job. When you're on the road, it's definitely going to be in C. Now the thing about ranges is you need to pick a range and stick with it. Okay, so you cannot shift ranges on the fly. You always need to come to a complete stop, shift ranges, and then take off again. Okay, so you pick a gear and you go with it. Now on most tractors, the same thing is true with your speeds. Okay, you usually pick a speed, pick a range, pick a gear, and you go. You take off and you stay in that range. You do not shift on the fly. Okay, the 5300 is one of those tractors. Okay, you do not shift it on the fly. You pick a gear, B2, B3, and you stay in that gear. This tractor, however, you can shift it, and you do need to shift it, really, because when you're rolling down the road, you want to be in C4 but that gear is too tall to take off in, so you need to, you know, start out in C1 or C2 and shift all the way up to 4. But not every tractor is like that. Again, differences between tractors. Most of the time, you pick a gear and you're in that gear. Okay. I'm gonna try to move a little bit faster here. This is a parking brake. Okay. Some tractors have a park gear where you shift it into park before you get off, and some have a parking brake. This parking brake is mechanical and it's on your left. You pull it up, it'll click, 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 and then it'll stop. To release, you push this, you lift up and then push this button and then put it all the way down. Okay, you need to make sure this is all the way down on this tractor. So parking brake, used for parking. It's not an emergency brake, used for parking. And then this tractor has 4-wheel drive. On this tractor, you pull this little black lever all the way up, as high as it'll go, then you have 4-wheel drive engaged. On our 4310, it's electric. You just press a button and it goes into 4-wheel drive. On the 5300, it has a little red shifter down here, and you just click it and you're in 4-wheel drive. So, you know, look for the decals. Okay, if you see this, a tractor with a arrow circling around and pointing forward, that's going to be your 4-wheel drive, whether it's a button or a lever or a shifter. You want to look for that. All right, for ranges, you want to look for letters. Gears, you want to look for numbers. Okay. Another thing this tractor has, and every tractor has, is called a differential lock. Okay, this differential lock, in order to use it, you step on this with your heel. Okay, some tractors it's on the right, some tractors it's on the left, right here, but they do the same thing. Again, look for the picture. All right, if you see something that looks like that, that's your differential lock. Now the differential lock is important because on the rear, if we look at the rear tires here, the power from the engine really only goes to one wheel at a time, and most of the time it's your right wheel. But let's just say you're going through some mud or you're going through snow. Okay, if that right tire starts to spin, power is going to be taken away from that tire and kicked over to this tire. Okay, so you really only have power going to one tire at a time, unless you step on the diff lock. So while you're driving, you'll press your heel onto the differential lock, push that lever all the way down, and that locks the rear end. So that will give you power to both rear wheels at the same time. Okay, so you step on the differential lock to lock the rear wheels together, and they will both get power at the same time. When you're done, you know, driving through the snow and you get unstuck, then you let go of this lever, it'll spring back up and you'll continue driving, and it'll only kick power over to one wheel. So that's a differential lock. You'll find that you use it more than you think you would, especially with this tractor with the light rear end and the turf tires. I've had to use the diff lock many times. All right, I think we're ready to hop up here. So let me hop up on the tractor. Man, it's getting cold out. Breezy. Okay, so again, if I'm sitting up here on the left, I have my range, I have my gears, parking brake, 4-wheel drive down here. On the right hand side, we have some things. Again, here's your seatbelt. This is the 3-point hitch raise and lower lever right here. So if I want to put the 3-point hitch down, push that lever forward. If I want to lift it up, I pull it back. On all tractors, this is on the right side. It'll be right here, right next to this seat. Okay, it might be up here somewhere, but the raise and lower is always on the right. This is a little lock. So if I was using a finish mower and I wanted to cut at, let's just say, 4 inches, I can set the lock and then the 3-point hitch is only going to go down so far. Okay, so 3-point hitch raise and lower with a lock. I don't really need that right now. This knob right here locks the bucket controls out. So I've never used it before, but if you wanted to keep this, if you wanted to lock the bucket in a position, you pull this out or push it in. Most bucket controls have a lockout, so that way you don't hit this by accident if you're doing something, not sure exactly, but that locks this. This is your bucket control lever, okay? You will need to learn how to use the bucket. Now, all bucket controls are the same, so on every tractor, all the bucket controls are the same. It will be on your right-hand side. It might not look exactly like this, but it'll be on your right-hand side. When you use the skid steer, the bucket controls are on the right-hand side, okay? So this is going to control your bucket. You pull it back, the bucket's going to go up. If you push this forward, the bucket's going to go down. If you want the bucket to roll or curl back, so to go like this, you're going to pull this to the left. If you want you to roll your bucket down so you can dump, you're going to push this to the right, okay? And then there's all different combinations of that, really. So you definitely need to learn how to use the bucket, especially while you're driving. That's you know, an important skill. It is tough to master. It does take time, okay? In order to, you know, if you're driving forward and you got to work the bucket, you know, it takes a lot, especially if you're not used to it. So don't be afraid to take your time. Again, all tractors are a little bit different. So some might have faster control response. Some might have slower control response. All right. On the right hand side, we'll do this pretty quick. We have a temperature switch. This is probably for your transmission right here. So if this light comes on, your transmission is probably hot. You might have low fuel. It might just be covered in dust. It might be a super hot day. I'm not really sure what this does. Not every tractor has this. On the right hand side behind me, to use these hydraulics that I talked about in my last video, the hydraulic hookups back there, this is your controls for them. Up, down, okay? So that's for the controls in the back. This is your light switch, okay? A couple different settings. These two buttons right here, the white ones, we're not going to touch these, okay? These are for the emissions equipment. The emissions equipment on this tractor is really complex, so you guys should not be worried about these two buttons. That's mostly for me when we need to do a regen cycle. Right here, this red triangle, this is your hazard light. So if I turn that on, my hazard lights blink. When you're rolling down the road, you should have your hazard lights on. Just makes it easier for people to see you. We have blinkers here, right blinker and left blinker, okay? So they really only work while you're driving. You guys don't really need to worry about this blinker stuff while you're driving. I'd much rather have you focused on the road and what you're doing. And then this center button right here, when you click it, if you look here and you have your little data screen, this, when you push that button in the middle, it'll rotate through different screens. So it could be ground speed, PTO speed, exhaust information, okay? So these are the little electronics on your right hand side, and then this knob right here is your PTO switch. So you click this up, you'll turn the PTO on, push this down, turn the PTO off, just like the Turf Tiger. All right, again, not every tractor has one of these electric ones. Some tractors, like the 5300, has a mechanical PTO engagement right down here, okay, on the floor, either left or the right. So that's something to note. And this is all the time I have for this video. I'm gonna have to make a part 3.